Please welcome your host from random corners of the world, making his way through the jungle of online businesses to $10 million. Anatoly Spector.
Oof, here we are.
There you
we
are.
are live. Hey guys, welcome to a 10 million journey. As you know, my name is Anatoly, and this podcast, a journal how I scale my business to 10 million and interview amazing entrepreneurs who are several steps ahead to share tactics, strategies, and mindset with all of you amazing people. My guest today is Quin Amorim, and Quin is an online entrepreneur who started his journey in late 90s, so 20 years already. Currently, he owns several private label brands on Amazon, manages several multi-million-dollar accounts with his prolific team. On top of that, like myself, Quin is a fellow podcaster. He has two podcasts, Fail Fast and QA Selling Online, and I had the pleasure to be a guest in one of them. I will leave links down below to those podcasts. You guys should check them out. They're amazing. Losing my voice today. Today, we're going to talk about Quin's journey and our latest tactic and strategy to sell online. So, Quin, welcome to the show. We're really excited to have you here.
Anatoly, I'm excited to be here and excited to talk to you again. It's been, a month since we last spoke? Maybe more?
Yeah, quite some time. Yeah, I missed you. So I'm happy we're back here.
Yes, for sure.
So I want to start with your journey, and then I want to go for like tactics and strategies to share with our listeners. But first, you pointed out yourself in your bio that you started to sell online before it was cool to sell online. So my question is, if it wasn't cool, what drove you to start selling online? What happened?
Well, it was, to be honest, it was a necessity, kind of. So it wasn't because I was thinking ahead and I could see the future or anything like that. All I saw was, I was actually driving home from work, and I heard in the news about this new website that they had just changed names, and they were I can't remember the name, but it was an auctions website, and then they changed the name in 1997 to eBay. And at the time, they were worth already. That's what the radio was saying, that they were worth 300 million. And at the time, that was like the biggest number I ever heard, right? 300 million, and for something online, right? And I didn't really understand too much, so I went home. I tried to figure out what this was all about, and I just listed a couple things to see. This was at first, it was like used things around the house. Just trying to make a few extra bucks and getting rid of stuff that I didn't want. And then it evolved from there into something that, I don't know, I named it. There was no name because there was no Google for me to search things, or there was no YouTube. YouTube actually didn't even exist or anything. So instead of calling it drop shipping or anything similar, I named it Selling the Picture, because the only thing I had was the picture of the product.
All right.
So I would go to stores and take pictures of things in the store, and I wouldn't buy them. So I would take pictures of, it started with wooden statues. So they were statues made out of black wood that come from Morocco. And I know you were around that area recently. So there's these, they're called the thinkers and stuff. It's like black wood statues carved by hand, all manual made. And the guys from Morocco will come over and sell them. And in this case, they were in the store. And I thought they were so cool, but they cost a lot of money. And I figured, well, maybe they cost a lot of money for me, but there's so many people out there that have a lot of money that this is nothing for them. They just don't know where this store is, because this was a very hidden store. So I started taking pictures with a camera, right? No cell phone. It was a camera still.
Yeah.
And then I would go and upload those pictures to eBay, and I would list them for sale. So I was selling the picture. And that's kind of how I started. This was everything was manual. There was no software whatsoever. When I first started, eBay they didn't even own PayPal yet, right at that time. So everything was so manual. So there was no SEO. I didn't even know what SEO was, right? There was no such thing. It was just list something, put the picture. If it sells, and because it was eBay USA, and I was in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
so I was in Portugal, and that's where I was selling these from. And so every time something sold, I would have to go to the post office myself, put it in a
Yeah.
box, and ship it. And the funny thing, now looking back, everything is so funny. I never knew how much the shipping would cost me until I got to the post office, right?
Yeah.
So if I charged, for example, $25 for shipping, um, when I got to the post office, if it was 30, for example, there was nothing I could do. I just had to ship it anyway. Yeah, so there was no way to find out shipping until I got there. And
Wow.
yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And it was just,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a little extra. I can't even say euros because it wasn't euros yet. The currency was called Scudo. So it was before euro existed, and I just wanted extra so I could go party. That's all I lived for at the time was partying,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
It's a good
So
motivation to to sell stuff on eBay. So you're working full time, I assume, or were you working?
yeah, I actually had more than one job. I had my full-time job, and then I was a bouncer in clubs for night shift. Right, you know how clubs work over there,
Mm-hmm.
from 2 o'clock in the morning till 6 or 7, and then
Yeah.
uh, I had to leave, and at 8, my other job started, and
Wow.
I had to be presentable. And
Wow. That's a crazy. That's a true hustle, as they as they call it these
yeah,
days. And for sure, people like to party in Portugal like crazy. I'm an early runner, so I used to run at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And when I would, the worst days for me to run in Lisbon would be on Fridays and Saturdays, because there would be like fights happening and people would be like out on the streets. You have to like run around them. So
hmm
I I can see how how partying is a big part of life in this part
it
of
is.
the world.
Yeah, it's six
So
days a week.
yeah, exactly. So I assume I would like to ask you about how did you find products to dropship, but I assume it wasn't any tools. So you just did you? I guess first you just bought something and tried out and it worked, and then did you have any other sort of algorithm you used to figure out what to sell?
So it was at the start. It was just things that I looked at and I liked, and I figured just in that case, I figured I really would like to have a ton of these, but they would cost me a lot of money. But there's people out there that don't know they're here, that they don't know these exist and can afford them. So that's the idea at first, how it was, and not like you said, it worked, and then I went to something else, but it didn't. So
Okay.
the more I sold, the more I realized I was going to fail big, because in that case, my number one item at that time were those hand carved statues made of wood.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem with them is because they were handmade. There's only one of each. Every
Oh.
single SKU was unique.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't own any. I didn't own any inventory. So this is a physical store that I would have to go to, drive to, and go there and get the things. So often I would get there and that statue doesn't exist anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because they actually sold it to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So then it became a problem. And there were two problems. One was exactly that. If somebody bought it, I couldn't sell it anymore. I ran out. Two, because they're completely different. And I actually thought there's a third one. But the second was because they're completely different, you would have to make another listing. And at the time, listings, they weren't like a title, bullet points, descriptions, or anything. It was a title and 3 or 4 pictures, and the description was as short as possible. Right, it was whatever I could think of, and
Yeah.
more than likely it was a copy and paste for all of them. Just the images would have to be different. And then the
Mm-hmm.
third one, which was um, what I realized the more it grew, was you cannot expand, you cannot grow a business with unique products because there's not enough supply, right? So you
Yeah.
have to sell one at a time. And so yeah, so that was my realization, and I wasn't doing this professionally, so it wasn't a huge deal, right? If it sold, it sold. If it didn't, it didn't. So I wasn't worried. I still had two other jobs that were
Mhm.
full time, and one of them paid all the time. The other one only paid every now and then, right? The bouncing job, it was, I could go a couple of months without getting paid, because times were tough in that business.
Mhm.
But yeah, then later on, when I moved back to Canada, then I started focusing more on that because I had more spare time, right? I only had one job then, and this started to changing into getting wholesale bulk deals. It wasn't wholesale like you see now on Amazon. It was basically going to China and getting something unlabeled, whatever they have made. For example, Nokia was really big at the time, right? Nokia was
Mhm.
the big brand
Yep. I
before
remember the time.
BlackBerry. So I had Nokia cell phone cases, and Nokia cell phone cases that were Ed Hardy, right? So Ed Hardy label, although I found out later too, it wasn't licensed. It was just a knockoff Ed Hardy, right? And I
Yeah.
was buying them and I was selling them, and I ended up becoming a big eBay seller at the time. It was called the Power Seller. And then I had some issues with selling things that were, of course, somebody else's IP. I didn't even know what IP was or anything. It was, I was self-taught. No, there was no gurus. There was not even a course out there that could teach me how to do anything. So I would try. If it failed, I would either blame it on myself and try again, or blame it on the product and then not try that one anymore. So everything was trial and error. If it worked, I would do it again. And the thing was with those cell phone cases for Nokia, it started to work. So I started to get like bigger and bigger quantities, and to the point where it's kind of annoying then to do the shipping. And still at this point, still no 3PLs or anything. It's still just me and post office and then Canada Post. Um, yeah, and then because of that is why I decided to stick with those cell phone cases at the time, and ended up having an issue and received cease and desist, and a couple of things a little bit stronger than cease and desist. And I decided after that, then so next thing I do, I'm gonna have to do it right. So I look into things, and I started doing things. Well, it's hard to say doing them right, because what is right, right? What's right today
Yeah.
may not be right tomorrow, and
Yeah, for sure.
and everything is always changing. But I did the best I could, right? And I actually started looking into not cyber squatting, or not infringing on somebody's IP, not infringing on
Mhm.
somebody's trademark, uh, and yeah, and start getting my own brands or things that were unbranded, right? So one of the things that was very successful were pocket bikes, those 50cc gas motorcycles that you still see them around these days. They're tiny. It's like a crotch
Mhm.
rocket, but they're
Oh, I see.
miniature.
Yes.
Uh, I was buying those from China and selling those, and they would sell like immediately. I had one job where I was in this. It was in an oil company, oil and gas company up in western North Canada, Northwest, and at work, I mentioned that I had these pocket bites, right? And at the time, the Seacan where they came in weren't even the 40 footers, right? It was the 20 footers or whatever, but you could fit a ton of those. And I ended up selling one of those in one day to people at work. And this was not even online. This was at work. And I was so excited
Amazing.
that there were two left over, and I ended up keeping them. And it was like a mini dirt bike and a mini crotch rocket that was completely black.
Wow.
And those things, they start getting so interesting, Anatoly. Like when that happens, you're like, oh my, I got to do it again. I got to get more quantity. And then
Yeah.
Android tablets. Android tablets were when Apple started launching the iPads. The iPads were very expensive compared to the tablets that I could get in China, right? And it was like comparing the $500 tablet at the time to a $60 tablet that I would buy, and then
Yeah.
I would get those and sell those, and at really high prices compared to what they cost me. But there was not many people doing this, right? And because of that, the requirements weren't much. The requirements were having the product and somebody that wants it sees you, because
Yeah.
competition was almost none, and there was no PPC. I wasn't running PPC or anything. Just I think my first Facebook ad was in 2008 or something like that.
Hmm.
So until then, everything was organic and a little bit of luck too, timing.
Yeah. I
That's
know, speaking about electronics, I know some people who might be listening, we all know that electronic is not a good idea. We have this ingrained sort of stereotype that electronics is not good. If you wanna, don't deal with electronics. You sell electronics, so I want to ask you, have you had any issues with that? Anything you can say?
It's a lot harder now, and the reason is because now we sell on Amazon, and eBay is not even an option for me anymore, since I think 2016 or so.
Hmm.
And the reason why it's harder is um, because back then things weren't done the way they should be, and eBay, uh, you not everything would be refunded. Not everything had the right to be refunded. So if you bought something, and if you realize a week later or 2 weeks later that doesn't work right, it would kind of end there. People would just leave it, and refunds almost didn't exist. Right? It was very
Hmm.
rare. Now, since Amazon came into play, everything is refundable, even if the product doesn't have a defect, right? Even if you buy
Yeah.
something and then you realize that I just wanted to test it once and I don't want it anymore, you send it back. Or you just wanted, that buy a dress to use once, and then you
Yeah. Wear it for a prom and then refund it back. Don't take the tags off and you're good.
exactly. So Amazon accepts everything back, and that's why electronics became a little bit harder. And
Hmm.
that's the way it should be, because if you are selling something that's defective, right, the person that buys it has the right to get their money back. But it does increase the costs to any seller, because
Yeah.
electronics can, a lot of times, even in the shipping, right, the humidity in those sea cans, depending on how long it takes to get here. If it's shipped in, for example, if shipped in the winter, some of the things people don't think of. Imagine those earbuds, and I did sell those little earbuds where one side of the earbud has the built-in battery, right? And then
Hmm.
the wire goes over to the next one, and the other one doesn't have a battery. It just takes power from the other one. So because those have a little battery built in it, for one, it becomes a hazmat product.
Yeah.
Two, when they're in the sea can at minus 40 Celsius or minus 40 Fahrenheit, right? That battery will suffer, right? Every
Yeah.
battery will suffer at negative temperatures, even car batteries, it doesn't matter. So they will lose their power. Sometimes they will even crack. And that's one of the things that, if you're selling, for example, those earbuds in the winter, you may not know it because your samples were perfect. Everything was perfect. Even, the inspection was fine. But then when the person received it, and now, for example, the Amazon delivery guy leaves it at your door too, and it sits there for another 4 or 5 hours till you get home from work, and those things freeze and blow up, break, and now it is damaged. So those are other things to take in consideration with electronics that contain batteries or are rechargeable.
Yeah.
And
Very interesting. I mean, I don't sell electronics, but it's good to know. I'm always interested why people say don't do that. But I guess thank you for explaining that. Now at least I know. I know it's a hazmat because it could blow up and stuff like that. But so that supplements, like you digest it and anything can happen. So, but electronics, I guess they have more of those points where things can go wrong because the temperature and hazmat and all those things. So.
and there's one more. There's one more on it.
Okay.
For example, there's a lot of Amazon sellers that started early on, right? And somebody that's been selling on Amazon for 7, 8, or 10 years may more than likely have started by selling a electronic. Because when you start selling things that you like and care for, or back then it was, before Helium 10 and Jungle Scout, and you were just selling random things that you liked. And most people, or most male, the majority of male, love electronics, right? Who doesn't care for exciting new gadgets? So a lot of those people who started early on, by now ended up becoming successful with time, and because they had a great timing in starting, right?
Yeah.
And those people are seen as experts in the subject, and a lot of them also try to throw out there, don't launch electronics, because for one, if you do, you're going to be my competitor, right? So
same with supplements. Yeah, I see people all the time. No supplements. Supplements are bad. But then I'm like, but you guys are selling supplements. I know that. Why are you saying that? So,
yes, although that is true though, because I sell supplements too, and I can tell you that 90% of them, if it was today, I would not launch it because I could not compete. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you think you are, unless you have huge pockets for marketing. We're talking about launching and doing 50 or 60 grand a month one in advertising. You can't get to that top of that page one, right?
Yeah.
Because those sellers that are there with 20,000 reviews that are making 2 or 3 million a month, they're not going to let you. Why would they?
But on the other hand, I do sell supplements as well and launch them with smaller budgets. But what I do is I find rare supplements or I combine stuff. So I never launch vitamin C or anything that's already there. I always look for something that is new, like completely new, just figure things out. And maybe it's not new somewhere else, but new on Amazon. So, but I can attest that selling supplements is very dirty game. That's a problem for that I find, that sometimes I launch something amazing and then I get lots of negative reviews and feedback, and they almost close my account because somebody in China is my competitor and they're just doing fake sort of wars with me with all those reviews, or people just say it doesn't work for me, or I just don't like it, and then you're like, I don't know what to do with that. Well, it's a supplement. It works for someone it doesn't. It's not like a drug. But even though the drugs, they don't work for everyone. So it's like you eat vitamin C, sometimes you get flu, sometimes you don't get flu. It's like a prevention mechanism. I don't know. So weird world we live in. But I want to get back to your story. So when was the time when you decided that this is a full-time sort of gig and not just like a side hustle? When did you decide that now I want to quit my job and I'm going to go and spend most of my time on this?
So I decided that a couple times before it actually happened, because it's different deciding something than it being actually possible. And I actually quit a few times too early, because and this is something that it's one of my pet peeves, that I hear anybody that has a course out there, course creator, of course, they want to sell their courses, right? But one of the things that almost all say is that you have to do this so you can quit your job and become your own boss. And a couple of the times that I did that, it became my own boss. It actually starves your business, because imagine you're doing, let's imagine you're doing 6 figures a year. Let's round the number. You're doing exactly 100 grand, right? 100 grand a year. A lot of people hear that, and okay, he's a 6-figure seller. He's doing 100 grand a year. And some people are impressed, but that's nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
That's nothing. Because if you sell 100 grand and you have to buy the product, you have to ship the product to Amazon, you have to pay taxes on that product, you have to pay 15% of the gross to Amazon, right? You have to pay storage. You have a ton of returns. After all, you're going to get 15, 20% of it that's a return, right? So if you get the 20% pure profit, we're talking about net 20% after PPC and everything, you made 20 grand, right? And I didn't think about that when I started seeing some bigger numbers. And so one of the times I saw a number that was 25 grand in a month, and I'm like, okay, I need to dedicate myself to this. And when you look at it, the profit out of that, and where I was living, and well, I'm still in the same province, but housing is very, very expensive, right? For example, rent for a 2-bedroom townhouse at the time was $4,000, was $3,600 plus utilities, right?
Yeah.
Just to pay for the rent and the 2 pickups that I have or whatever, just to pay for all of that. If I made 25 grand a month on Amazon, everything else would be break even, or I would probably be losing money after paying everything on groceries. And you only realize that 2 months after you quit, that things start to shrink, right?
For sure.
Things start to shrink and you don't have any cash flow. And when you sell out and Amazon holds your money for 2 weeks and you realize you already sold everything, but now you're out of stock and you're out of money to order more, right? And a C-can costs a ton of money. Maybe I need to take a little bit the humility pill and go back to work for somebody. And I had to do that a couple times.
That's actually a very powerful message. I want to reiterate that because people listen to courses and listen to people that say you'll quit your job in like 6 months after doing this. Well, no, I think the money that you get back, and I'm a 6-figure seller, and everything I get I just pull back into a business. That's why I have like IT consulting gigs, just because I know that I need to grow the business. Well, if you get 20 grand, what do you need to do? You need to put them back into business. Otherwise you don't grow. You just stay at the same level. You need to buy more inventory and stuff like that. So that's a very powerful message for anyone who is listening. I think that's like a golden nugget that a lot of people don't tell you, but they should. Thank you.
But even if you're making some profit, right? Because if you made, let's say, $10,000 profit this month, and you just keep it because now you don't put it into the business and you don't have another job, next month your Amazon business only gives you 10 grand again. You always have the same because you don't reinvest that. So my plan was always to grow it so it would get to a point where everybody thinks about the huge exit, right? It's going to come with 9 or 10 figures, and here Microsoft shows up, Google, or somebody in Facebook, and they want
to buy your Ed Hardy cases for
exactly.
9 figures.
Ed Hardy himself wanted them. Right? He's gone now, but
it was the fancy brand. I remember all those T-shirts and stuff like that, very expensive. But funny. It's funny how fashion changes. Nobody's into that anymore. Everybody likes very toned down clothes.
By the way, I never liked them personally.
Me neither.
I never liked them, but because they sold, I did it until I was told to stop.
I remember I bought one fake one, I think, in Antalya in Turkey or something, and I had like this T-shirt. But then I'm like, I look like a clown. I should probably not wear that anymore. So 100%. So let's talk about then. It's a good segue to the when should people focus on it full time? What do you think?
When you focus on it full time is when you realize that having your other job is actually taking away from this one, right? So when your your main job, let's call it the 9 to 5, let's call it the main job, when that one is feeding your business, right? When that one is paying your rent and paying for your car payments and is paying for your groceries, it's feeding your business because it's allowing you to you reuse your capital in there. But when it starts to take away the time that you need to grow that business and is not making as much as the other one would, right? When you get to that point, you know that what each business is bringing in, and profit wise, gross never matters. That's something that I don't like. I never focus on. I don't like that people focus on gross because it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And that's when the profit starts to kind of decline because of you having too many hours at your other job. That's when you should let it go. And there's, you know what, even then, there's always the option that you can train a VA, because there are people out there that are so experienced that have been working with e-commerce entrepreneurs for so many years, from the Philippines, from India, Pakistan, and they actually know what they're doing. And, they can charge you $5-10 an hour, right? So if that person can do as good of a job as you are doing, why not let them run it for a bit, and to see, basically to see if they can actually do what you expect them to do, because that would be another benefit too, because we can't always do everything by ourselves. Because I tried. I always thought I was the only one that could do everything.
Yeah.
And fortunately, after a while, I learned the lesson that there are so many people out there that know a lot more than me, and they've been in the game less time, because things change so quick. And what I did in 97 does not apply to anything, right? So basically saying I started selling online in 1997 doesn't mean that I'm better than anybody else. It means that the things that I knew, nobody needs them for anything. They're useless right now, right? Nobody needs to send checks or receive checks from selling things online.
But I guess the benefit that you have is experience, because you can look and find out some of those red flags that other people who are just starting out, they don't. You know that, like, if you like to sell AirPods, you probably won't go to sell AirPods, or that if you see Armani cases or T-shirts, you probably should not go and sell it. And some people can find it out online, or like with the courts or something. But there are some things that you can't. Like, I was selling supplements and they would melt, and I would not know that because nobody else I knew would sell them, for example, or the issue with the batteries. So there's some things that you learn along the way, that when I talk to new sellers and I see how their eyes are glowing with, like, I'm going to do that, I'm going to earn that much. But if you haven't launched a product, well, that's when you launch a product, I guess that's when you're initiated, when you understand that nobody's going to buy it right away, but you need to do lots of things for it to sell, and the next one will sell better. Then it's an experience that you cannot explain. It's just what it is. Not for everyone. Some people are lucky. I know people who are just start selling and making millions with their first product. Not me. I'm not that kind of person, but I'm with you. 100%.
You learn what not to do.
Learn what not to do until there's not too much of that, and then you succeed. I agree. And on the VA, I also completely agree. And the other thing about VA is, this VA, I'm working only on my own business. This VA might work on like 5 different sellers, so they know things that if they have experience that those other sellers do, that they can go and help you out with. Like, I hired an amazing guy in either Pakistan, Bangladesh, I don't know, but he's just great, and he worked with different sellers, so he gives me ideas. He's like, oh, you should create test listings, you should do this and that, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, and he works with like this huge sellers, and I'm like a small seller. So he works with me, and he gives me all those. I have all the advantages of a person who worked and has all the experience with big sellers. It does not cost me much.
Absolutely.
So I think that's.
I actually want to tell you an example of something that happened to me with a VA that 5 years ago, I think it's 5 years ago. Recently we celebrated 5 years, because she's still with me today. And when I first hired her, I had 400 listings that had to be updated, right? And there was a change that I wanted to do on all of them. So I I created a job on a website that doesn't exist anymore. It was bought by Upwork, bought them out, and now they just merged them all together. So it was actually called Elance.
Yeah.
And so I found her on Elance, and I told her, so I have the job. This is it. There's 400 listings. So my issue is I have a month only to update these. Within a month, all 400 listings have to be changed. So I gave her a 1 month job. That's what I hired her for, right? And then you could, just like today, you could with Upwork, you decide that they can work 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week, or whatever. Because I just wanted it done. I didn't care. So I think I went with the 40-hour week for 4 weeks to get this job done. So her resume impressed me. At the time, I didn't know if it was true or not, but it was impressive, right? It looked like for the previous 5 years, she was already working with a ton of e-commerce entrepreneurs. And so anyway, I decided I had nothing to lose. She only wanted $4 an hour to do the job. And yeah, okay, I'll try it. She asked me, after I hired her, she asked me for a tool for me to buy a software that cost $9. The membership was $9.99 for 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, sure, if that helps you. I bought the tool and just gave her the login, and that was it. 4 hours later, she gave me the job delivered complete. She finished the job the same day. And that tool that she used was the tool that basically did that, right? You program the tool does the job, and that was it. So anyway, the bill was less than $20, and I was just mind blown that I didn't know this, right? If I didn't decide to hire her, I would have spent a month myself doing that tedious task on the listings, or paid somebody, many hours. We're talking about 160 or 150 hours, whatever they would charge me to do something. And she did it for $20 plus the $10 for the thing. And I'm like, okay, she actually knows what she's doing. And kept her. She's still around. And I think it's been over 5 years now that she's been around.
Wow. Let's talk about that. I think for me, it's always interesting to look at systems and to look at teams, because I think this is what builds the business. People think that products build the business, but I think if you have the right team and the right processes, then you can find products and then you can be successful. But if you don't have those, you'll fail eventually, because you'll get too big and then you won't be able to scale it. So how does your team look like, and how do you deal with process?
Well, processes, now we have something new and exciting. I mean, when I say new, it started in 2019, I think. And it was giving up all the paper, the processes that we had in paper or Word documents or Google Docs and all of that. I started get rid of those and started developing everything, because things, everything changed really quickly, right?
Yeah.
By yesterday, I mean 2016, we had a way that we would give products away for free in exchange for a review. We were allowed to do it. Amazon allowed it to do us. We had to put a disclaimer on, or not us, the customer would have to put a disclaimer on their review saying, I got this product for free or highly discounted. That's why I'm leaving this review. So anyway, that was allowed. So we had processes for that, and that went away. Then we have processes for dealing with the URLs, what to do with URLs, what to do with titles, what to do with bullet points. And then things change all the time. So we've got to keep updating them. Or sometimes you do forget to update something, and then the mistakes keep repeating themselves until you catch it. So now what we do is we use Loom video, right? With I have the professional version, which only costs $5 a month. It used to be 10. Since COVID, they lowered to 5.
Loom.com. Yeah, I'll put in the show notes. We use it as well. Amazing tool.
And I use, of course, the Chrome extension, and everything that I need to change or to do, I only do it once. right? So I do it. I record myself doing it, and then I make sure to go to one of my accounts instead of going in a client's account or something, right? Because not all of the VAs, not all of the staff has access to all of the accounts, and they don't need it. So I do a recording of what I need to do, and I actually do it. Then that recording gets saved into folders of, for example, PPC, PPC automatic campaigns, PPC manual campaigns, and everything gets cataloged. And then next time you need to do I don't know, let's say an auto campaign, if the person didn't know how to create an auto campaign, they can go in that folder, click on it, and there's like a 2-minute video, then a 1 minute 30 seconds on how to do the negatives, and things are just saved in there. And this is just so I don't have to repeat things, and so I don't have to do the tasks that are not important money makers and things that are simple that anybody can do. We just record them and get somebody else to do them, and my time could be used in more important stuff.
Amazing. Highly recommend. We're doing the same thing. I hate repeating the same task, so just everything is recorded. I think the good book about it is called The One Thing, and the premise of the book is, what one thing can you do today that will make other things easy or unnecessary? So when you think about it that way, the creating standard operating procedures, which is exactly that, recording videos, is exactly this one thing that if you're doing it every day, you're making those things easier or unnecessary sometimes. So I recommend the book, and I recommend to try create those procedures. So how does your team look like in terms of? I know you have a consultancy we're going to talk about in a second, and you have your own Amazon business. So I just want to talk a little bit about your Amazon business, or I guess e-commerce business. You can sell it in many different places.
Yes.
So how does your e-commerce business team look like?
So it is, things are a little bit different now. So I used to have a team that worked for me in, let's say, managing my e-commerce, right? My Shopify, Walmart, Amazon, and my own. And then on the agency side, a different team that manages things for clients. So it ended up joining it, and it's almost as if I became a client of my own agency, right, as a seller. So I have the agency, instead of having two teams doing the same thing, right, I just joined it, and now basically the agency works for me, and I just owned it. I just happened to own the agency too. And yeah.
Okay. So how does the joint team look like?
Well, they're very different people. There's very different people. Everybody, I think of myself as a happy person, so I like to have people that have happy personalities around. Not that everybody's around all the time. Now with COVID, actually nobody's even around. But I also have my sister also works for me. She is the manager of the agency. And the staff. So she manages the staff, and basically it's almost as if I am part of the staff, because I do work to do all day too, right? It's like I'm a team member, and I actually work more hours than anybody else. And it's actually very exciting. It's almost like having the capability of having your own soccer team. I say soccer because it's the sport that I grew up with in Europe. And you could hire your own soccer players, the pros, right? You can hire your team. And that's what I'm doing when I see I have a guy that used to work for Shopify. So he's certified Shopify. He's certified by Facebook for Facebook ads, and then I have other that are Google certified ads people, and of course Facebook. Then PPC had a couple Amazon PPC experts that worked for an AI company, one of the AI software tools out there, and I ended up talking to one of those guys and realized that they were making very little money, and I wanted my lead team, and I told the guy I would double it, and he told his buddy, and two of them came over to me, and it's funny because I don't know. It's not that it's funny. It made me happy because I felt like, okay, I'm building my elite team, and I have somebody for everything, and I have a designer, which actually has an MBA, and she is amazing, and she does labels and 3D renderings, and she is amazing at 3D renderings. The only thing that is not very good is, I don't know if anybody is good at doing renderings of clothing. Renderings of clothing is, I would say, almost impossible. But anything just like a bottle shape, I don't know, yoga mat shape. Not that that's one of the things that I don't recommend people launching either. Yoga mats. For many years, that was one of the hottest items. But yeah, anything else, she can make those. And most of the times, like majority of the times, I'll say more than 90%, we don't even use photography. We use 3D renderings. The only time we need real photography is if Amazon requires a certificate of analysis for a dietary supplement, and they require real pictures to see the brand and the UPC on the product and all that. That's the only time we take a couple of pictures with our phones and send them in. And and then I have somebody that works very hard with outreach. And outreach basically is for SEO, where they contact sites, blogs, any kind of content out there on the internet that is related to the one we want to rank for outside of Amazon. We're talking about Google now. And they do link exchange, and sometimes just without exchanging, just actually building links out there. And of course, Google Maps. We're on Google Maps for myself, for clients, and everywhere, right? Because SEO on Google is very important too for Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Because, we even get our Amazon listings ranking on Google, right? So if you type in, I don't know, if you're selling Bluetooth speakers and somebody types Bluetooth speaker on Google, you would love that your Amazon listing would show up, because now people go from Google to Amazon, and of course those conversions would help you rank even higher than you already are. And because nobody was doing that for many years, it was very easy for us, because Amazon has a very high authority. It's one of the highest authority domains in the world, right? Amazon, Facebook, Wikipedia, Google themselves. So it's very easy to rank an Amazon link because the domain is super powerful. So building links to our Amazon listing, right? So we would be building links to a domain that we don't own, and using the third-party domains, and of course creating content. I say of course, but it's not. Of course, it's not that obvious to everybody. But we create content for free for other sites, right? There's a lot of sites out there that are dying to have a good piece of content. So we would write that content for free for them, if that content could have two 2.0s, which is two links that are going to go to another piece of content, right? And then that piece of content would go to my site, or go to my client site, or to our Amazon listing. And of course, that's the stuff that would increase our rank on Google. And I mean, that's one of the things that we've been doing for a long time, to rank any product on Google itself too.
Wow, that's actually a really good strategy that not many people use, because we always think, we don't own Amazon, so we don't want to advertise Amazon. We don't want to do anything with Amazon. We just want to advertise our own pages. But you're right. It's much easier to rank Amazon because, well, it's a very reputable site. Yeah. So that's actually a golden nugget I don't hear very often. So amazing. Talking about your Amazon business, can you share how many products you have or any revenue numbers, anything that to have a sense of like how your business look like?
Yes. Product wise, and talking about parent listings, right? Because if we talk about child variations, I wouldn't have an idea. But of my own, I would say less than 100 parents, or less than 100 parent SKUs, right? Of my own. With customers, it's in the thousands of parent SKUs again, and I've never counted variations because a product could have 10. I have one product that has 15 variations.
Actually, let's talk about that as well, because I think it might be useful for people who are, let's say, new and who are sort of weirded out by the variation thing. When do you think is a good way to launch a separate product? When do you think is a good way to launch a variation for a product, and what's the benefits of each?
Okay, so both have benefits, and so the benefits of creating two separate listings for a product that is a variation of another one. It's having double the amount of real estate, right? So now if you have two products that are listed separately, you can have on those two listings, you can have different keywords. They would both rank differently. You can have different prices. Therefore, when somebody searches for the main keyword of your product, you have two chances or three or four chances of showing up, right? That's one of the benefits. That is a benefit, but it's also one of the negatives, because now by having four different products, you're going to need to have four different budgets, right? And you're going to have to do different campaigns for them, and you would have to rank 3 or 4 times. Then the advantage, for example, of having one parent listing and then the variations underneath, the main advantage there is if you get one review, it doesn't matter if it's for the color blue, yellow, green, or magenta, that review goes to all of them. So all of them get a review. It's only a good thing if it's a 5-star review.
Yeah.
That sucks. And so that's the plus. And you could also achieve that by sometimes merging existing listings, and you can merge them together. A listing that has 50 reviews, then another one that has 2, and you would merge them. I don't know if it's still possible now in I was going to say 2020. This is 2021, but it used to be possible where you can merge one with 50, one with 5, and then the listing would have 55, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you would only merge it if the rating was good enough. So advantages again is now having one product with all the listings is that all those keywords. So if somebody searches for yellow Bluetooth speaker and they land on your listing, they will automatically see the blue one and the black one and the magenta, right? Because now they're on the listing, they get to see all the colors, the sizes, and they get to pick from there. So they have more options of picking 1 or 2 of your products. And if they buy more than 1 of your products, then you have a chance of being entered to the frequently bought together with 2 of your products, gaining a little bit more exposure there too. If I had to weigh the 2 of them, most of the times, the parent with child variations will win.
Okay.
Not by far, but depends on the product and depends on the category too. When it comes to shoes, clothing, stuff like that, you would want them all together, right? So you could see the large, the extra large, the small, and variations, and
For
then
sure.
multiply that by all the colors and all in the same listing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you. Very valuable. I don't have any variations, but I was thinking about them. So to launch some more variations, because it might be a good idea to get more profits with the same product that is already ranking well. So
Each
Now I
variation,
know.
by the way, each variation needs its own UPC. So every
Yeah.
variation needs to have a UPC too, unless you requested a GTIN exemption, and then none need it.
Okay. Sounds good. So, agency. When did you decide that what you're doing is so good that you want to share it with other people, and how did agency came to life?
Well, I started doing Facebook ads just for myself, and I was doing ads for myself, and in I think 2016, I had one campaign that went viral, and I had set it was set originally to $27, the budget of a boost. This was a boost, Facebook boost. All marketers out there always talked about why you shouldn't boost campaigns, but I knew different, and I decided boosting campaigns would be beneficial for me and for what I wanted to do. And I decided to create that boost campaign, and ended up becoming viral. And then by viral, I mean 34 million hits in 4 days. I think it was 4 days.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's viral for sure.
So the thing was, the first day, that boost was just to boost a page that was talking about a product. It didn't have
Okay.
a link to the product. It was just talking about the product, and it was trying to create a little bit of suspense to see, would you want this? If this, if there was a sale, if this was discounted, would you want it? And create a bit of curiosity. And then it started blowing up. We ended up having, I think, over 200,000 shares. It was shared over 200,000 times. So by day two, I realized how powerful that was. I increased the budget, ended up spending the total campaign, ended up spending 57 Canadian dollars. $57 Canadian, which is, I don't know, $45 US.
Yeah.
Now, I edited the post, right? The boost was from original post, and I edited to add a pretty link. A link which is like a bit.ly link that would direct to the Amazon product itself. Since it was being so successful, I added that. So on day two, this thing was already like close to 15 million hits by then, and the product ran out. I ran out of everything on Amazon. So it was so mind-blowing that I mentioned it, and I mentioned it on Facebook, and somebody had even seen it, and they told me, well, I sell on Amazon too. If you are out of stock, can't we do an agreement? And since it is a pretty link, you can change where it directs people to and direct them to my listing. You add your Amazon affiliate code to this, and I will give you commission on top of that.
Somebody was very smart.
And they were very smart. They ended up being the best thing, because I wasn't going to make any more money because I didn't have product. And then he ended up making a ton of money for the other 2 days, because then he ran out after the other two.
And then all the people in the Facebook group were rotating links.
Yes. And at the time I was thinking, well, this guy, we don't have anything written. We don't have anything that says this guy actually has to pay me. And then the other voice in my mind that kept telling me, well, without him, you wouldn't make anything anyway. So just let it run, right? Let it run. You spend $57, let it go. And he was very honest, and he came true with everything, and there was never any issues. And the funny thing happens, an amazing thing happens with every boost. And this is one of the things that's great about the boost is every year that goes by on that date, people get reminded of what they shared and what they posted. And it was 1 year ago today, you shared this. 2 years ago today, you share this. And every year on that date, a flood of traffic comes back insane, because all those millions of people that get that notification from Facebook from what they shared, and then it gets reshared again and again. And
Wow.
and I never boosted it again. Anyway, that's just to tell how I started. Because of that, and that was so successful, there was a few people that I know that asked me, maybe you can run a couple campaigns for me like that. And I started running campaigns for people. And then it got to a point where I realized, like, I do have a tiny bit of free time, but I could use it to be with my family, or maybe I should just start charging people for this. And Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels, he was talking about the prolific zone, where the prolific zone is that area of right before people say you're crazy. It's the area of genius. And then when you go past that, it's like, okay, he's crazy. And that's called prolific zone. So when he said that, I went ahead and I got the domain, the prolific zone, because I love the idea. And I bought the prolific zone, and I decided to create my agency, which was originally going to be for the Facebook ads because they were being so successful. And then I quickly realized that it wasn't my passion. I was just running ads because I needed them. I was running them for myself up until that time. And what I was passionate about was Amazon. And as soon as people start contacting me to do that for Amazon, I just completely stopped all the Facebook ones and niched down to Amazon only, or e-commerce only, because we do Shopify, Walmart, and Amazon, and that's it, of course. And then I have a customer that's on WooCommerce. Not WooCommerce, several on WooCommerce, BigCommerce. BigCommerce only one, and what a weird platform, but it has to be
old school. It's very old school.
And that's how it got started. And now it takes more time. The agency takes more of my time than selling. And now, it's just I have a metric that is fascinating. Anatoly, I love this. And until COVID came, we had a customer retention rate of 92%.
Wow.
Meaning 92% of our customers come back month after month after month for a full service account, right? This is not just doing a copywriting of a listing, and right, we're talking about full service ones month after month. And then during COVID, there were a couple that let go of the service. They discontinued the services. And it was because at that time, they couldn't get inventory for their services or for their products. And when it was only, what was it called? Only specialty items could be sent in, like vitamins.
Essentials,
Essentials. And the other one, of course, wasn't making that much money at that time, and then let it go too. And now one of those two is back already.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I know that your agency is, I hear stories that it's really good. And you have this reputation of just getting things done. So that's why I think, I mean, you have experience. That's why I'm saying, when you're 20 years in this, you understand what's right, what's wrong, and you already made mistakes.
Yes.
And you're there. So congrats. Yeah, that's a huge success. And it's always good when you start your agency from people coming to you and saying, please help me, instead of just, I wanted to make money, and what will I do? I'll just create an agency. So your ways is much better, and results speak for itself.
And the best one is when somebody comes and approaches me from LinkedIn, Skype. I got so many people that approach me from Skype because they are referred to, right? That's how they get the Skype. And the majority are referred to by somebody else. And they always tell me, well, they say you are the best. And there was a customer that said, he called you the Amazon fairy. And for the longest
Amazon fairy.
I use that name on my Skype, the Amazon fairy.
Amazing. I have the section in podcast called Rapid Fire Questions. The same question I ask every entrepreneur here to get a sense of how you feel. So you can answer shortly, you can answer long form, doesn't matter. Just same questions for everyone. So the first question is, if you didn't have any connections, didn't have your agency, didn't have your employees, you didn't have anything, you had some debts that you need to pay, let's say in 60, 90 days, and you just had $5,000 in your bank, and you would want to get everything back and pay your debts. What would your plan be, like in a couple sentences? What do you think you would do?
So no connections, no money, and
You just $5,000 in your bank account. You don't have any lists, no employees. You just know what you know, and you just need to pay debts and get everything back.
so knowing what I know, first of all, I would get a WordPress site up and start a new agency and get the word out there really quickly. Two, I could get a couple things that are done for free. One is join some affiliates and start sharing things, because the $5,000 don't go too far when it comes to creating private label products. And depending on how much time I had, I could jump into private label on demand, which is some of the services out there that allow you to imagine supplement companies that allow you to do it almost like drop shipping of your own label to Amazon. So you can start with quantities as low as, imagine 10 units. If you want to buy 10 units of vitamin C, like I said, don't touch vitamin C. I wouldn't. Vitamin C serum, but if you wanted to start something like that, you could contact one of those companies and they charge you like a membership that is $200, or there's two different kinds, but you can pay $200 a month for the membership and then order 10 units of something with your label, with your brand on it, see if it flies. And knowing what I know, I would try my best to make it work while having, a plan C and a plan D already going. And Anatoly, if I had to, I would start to get a 9-to-5 again.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. The private label on demand, not many people speak about that as well. So I think that's also a golden nugget. If you're short on time, you want to try it out, there's a way to do it. So I would Google private label on demand supplements, and that's a really good one. I haven't heard that a lot, so thank you. The other question I ask entrepreneurs is, can you describe one of your biggest failures and how you dealt with that?
Okay, so I started a physical business with two partners, and that was the biggest failure in terms of financial failure, right? So it also hurt a little bit psychologically too, because we were a little bit shook up. But we launched something that was a physical business, and it was manufacturing kitchen cabinets here in Canada. And we dedicated it to one city. We created our site, we did SEO, and we started getting clients. And it actually worked so well. Is one of the fastest growing businesses that I had seen, that it took us less than 5 months. Sorry, it was 5 months to get to 7 figures. So in the first 5 months, we got to 7 figures, and money was coming in. Like, we would collect ahead of time, right? Because everything was custom. When somebody makes a kitchen that is custom, you have to collect ahead of time, because it's not going to fit anywhere else, right? So we would do that. So when home manufacturers, or apartment manufacturers would come to us and say, for example, one ordered 40. The average cost of a kitchen was $22,000. That's the average, right? It could go to 70 or it could be 15, but the average was 22. So when somebody orders 40 kitchens, that's $800,000 in your pocket, like that, right? Just from one client. And things started growing so fast that we started spending so fast, and we started hiring, and we had a big team. And when you have a big team, imagine everybody has a salary of close to $100,000 in that time in that city. And after paying everything, we ended up with a hole of close to 300,000 negative. And that.
Oh.
So yeah, and the thing was, the reason why it became more of a failure, more than the 300 itself, was that we were caught off guard only, right? Because the money was always up front, so we always had cash flow that wasn't ours. Then when we realized that the numbers weren't adding up, it was kind of too late for that. So it still exists, and and running profitable at this point, but it's still not even caught up.
Wow. The other question I usually ask is, how did your life change when you started making lots of money from the time when you were, let's say, bouncer in a Portuguese club? So can you talk about like, okay, I lived like that, now I live like this. Like, what changed?
A couple things changed. The main thing that changed was I became a grown up, and I don't have time for partying. I don't have patience for it. I don't care about it. Even if there wasn't COVID didn't exist, I probably still wouldn't leave the house because I would spend most of my time working in the office. But one of the things that I do enjoy is a lack of the stress. There is no stress because man, at one point we had close to $7,000 a month of expenses for the home, right? Because I had a couple homes, and then I like cars, so at one point I had 3 pickups. So I had a F-150 Raptor 6.2 liter. I had the F-150 EcoBoost. I had a GMC 1956 lowrider with a 7-liter engine. A 396 big block in it, V8, and anyway, Acadia and my Porsche, and it's just because I like them, not because it's not for the show off. I don't take pictures in front of anything, for ads or whatever.
Yeah. Here's my agency. Here's all my trucks.
Yeah, and it was just for me. And now the trucks are all gone. And
Okay.
I kept the Porsche because I really like it, but I drive it once every 4 months. Last time I drove the thing was October of 2020. Last time I touched it, so but having the possibility is not that I like having it there, right? I don't drive it every day, but I like having it there. I like that if I want something on Amazon, I just click the buy button. All right, it's the feeling of freedom and not worrying of what happens if my kids get sick, right?
Yeah.
That's the feeling.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing. A couple more questions, and then we're good to go.
Yeah.
What book or books you think influence your life the most?
So I don't want to say the same ones that everybody says, like the 4-hour week and all of that. But
that's definitely a popular one.
there's one. There's a couple, right? One is Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I really liked the lessons of it. The 10,000 hours doing something, right? It's not luck. It's not luck. It's been doing it for so long that you just, that's how Bill Gates became the billionaire that he is, because he was one of the first that achieved those 10,000 hours doing something.
Yeah.
And another one that is not too entrepreneurial, but it was an eye-opener. One of those situations that somebody tells you something that you already knew it was true, but you never thought about it, right? And it's Masks of Masculinity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so Masks of Masculinity is it's basically about the faces that we put on depending on who we're talking to or who's around us, who's looking at us, right? Like in high school, you had to look a certain way, so you put on that mask, right? So the mask of the tough guy if you're playing rugby or football or whatever, or if you're around a girl that you like, you put on another face, right? It's like you're being interviewed in a podcast. You have to put another mask because you're not going to go up your way and start cursing, and and there are certain masks that are more powerful than others. So some people have to actually hide things that are more powerful, right? Like their sexual orientations. Imagine somebody that has in a powerful position and they have a sexual orientation that their parents didn't agree with or the family doesn't, and they put that mask on.
Yeah.
And all those things that are, after reading it, it's obvious, right? We know it exists, and you start remembering when you did it, and then you try to be aware of when you do it. I'm like, oh wow, I'm being somebody I'm not, right?
Yeah.
I'm putting a mask, and it opened my eyes for that, and I that's what the main reason I liked it.
Well, yeah, I should read that. I read Outliers. I love Malcolm Gladwell, so I think I read most of his books. But Mask as Masculinity, I'll put this in the show notes below, and I'll actually go check it out. I usually listen to an Audible, so I'm just going to download it right after this because it sounds like something I need to listen. I have two more questions. One is, what are some of your favorite, I mean, excluding your own, I guess, what are some of your favorite podcasts, mailing lists, or YouTube channels in regards to getting valuable information about business and e-commerce?
All right, so podcasts, I only listen to podcasts in the shower and when I'm driving. And lately, I haven't been driving much, and I don't shower much either. No, I'm just kidding. No, uh, but I do like, for example, one is Lewis Howes. He is the guy that wrote The Masks of Masculinity. So it's one of the top podcasts out there. I enjoy Ed Milet's podcast. Um, and and then I change a lot. I tend not to go too deep into Amazon podcasts. So purposely, so I don't get the information that others are putting out and then go to my podcast and make it sound as if it was my own, right? So because that happens a lot, and so I hear a lot of people sharing things that they heard somebody else say, but they never tested it, and then it may or may not be true, but then it changes a lot. From Smart Passive Income from Pat Flynn, and
I used to love that one.
And then once every 6 months, I listen to a couple of Gary V, and then very quickly I stop because it's too repetitive. But once every six months, it's good to remind yourself and hear the same hustle, 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 and reverse engineer. And
Yeah. All right. Yeah, lots of valuable ones. We'll put all of them down below so you guys can definitely check them out. And here's the last question I ask every entrepreneur. Since this is my journey, I ask every guest to give me an advice. And since you have an agency and you help entrepreneurs, that's even better. So I do have an Amazon business, FBA business currently. We're selling free products. Free means number free, because sometimes people think that I sell stuff for free because of my accent. So we sell free products. We're making about 200,000 in revenue right now, and my goal is to scale it to 1 million and then to 10 million. Hence the 10 million journey name. So not too much information giving away, but knowing what you know, what advice would you give me?
The number one advice I give everybody, I don't know if you're in that boat or not, is knowing your numbers. A lot of people don't know how much money they make at the end of the day, right? A lot of sellers launch things and then they look at the competitors, and that's how they decide the price of what they're selling. And after all the fees, I knew a guy that was losing $2.50 for every product he sold. So, if you sell 10 a day or 100 a day, multiply that by your losses, and that becomes terrible. Another one is, even if you get good advice or something that you think is good advice, it doesn't matter if it's from me or anybody else out there, don't just accept it blindly, because if it works for me, it may not work for you or for your product or the category that you're in, right? And the last one is to remember that when seeing who your competitors are, a lot of sellers take away things that are not relevant to their product. For example, if you're selling Bluetooth speakers and you're looking to see if that product is going to be viable, you type in Bluetooth speakers and you go to that first page and you use Helium 10 or you use Jungle Scout. And what you do is remove the ones that are not Bluetooth speakers. But in reality, those are your competitors because there's only so much room in that page. And if they are there, that means they are ranking for your keywords. So they are taking away your visibility. They are a competitor. So if Apple is on that product selling a computer, Apple is your competitor, right? This is just a weird example, but so know that everybody that has one ranking that you want, he is your competitor, even if he's not selling the same thing you are. Because there's only if you're on a desktop, you only have like 50 to 60 places on the page. If you're on a phone, you only have a dozen things to search for. And if you're not one of them, nobody sees you.
Well, yeah, great advice. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Those are all my questions. But before we go, how can people find more about yourself and what's going on with you? Let us know.
All right. So my name is here. You probably can see it on the bottom left of the screen there, Quin Amorim. If you Google it, the first 3 pages are all about me. It's a weird name, so it's easy to get the SEO for it. And then QA Selling Online. That's one of my e-commerce podcasts. It's pretty decent ranked with SEO too, so easy to find. The other one is Fail Fast Podcast. And any of those has a contact form, like failfastpodcast.com, QASellingOnline.com has a contact form that you can reach me. Or the agency is prolificzone.com. You can find me there, find my team. And of course, if you want to connect on social media, I'm available to everybody. And on that new platform too, what's it called? Clubhouse. I'm there too.
Yeah, everybody's on Clubhouse now. So thank you. We'll put everything in the show notes. You guys don't have to write anything down. Everything will be there. Quin, it was amazing. I really, really appreciate you. I think you're bringing lots of value, and your experience is definitely invaluable for me. I really, really enjoyed it. There's more questions. I have to invite you again to ask you more questions about the tactics, but I hope we'll do it pretty soon. And for everyone listening, you guys, if you look down or if you're listening, you just go to 10millionjourney.com to subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where those live videos, not on Instagram, on Facebook, the live videos are. Instagram does not allow videos like that yet, but we'll get there. So thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So.